Well, hello there. This is Vitriol's the Chess Noob, learning and having fun with chess. Now, at the end of last week, I played this game. I played it fairly tired. I was fairly late at night. I don't think I had had dinner yet. And so this game is a little bit messy. It's definitely not the most accurate. However, I did find a very, very lovely brilliancy in the middle game. And when I analysed this game, there are actually quite a bit of learning that I got out of it, and I think you might get something out of it as well. Well, let's go take a look. So, I had the white pieces in this game, and we start off with the Vienna. So, e4, e5, knight c3, and black now plays the symmetrical knight, the Max Lange defense. Recently, one of my subscribers left a comment, German, so it's the Max Lange defense. I'm going to try to pronounce it accurately. Now, against the Max Lange defense, I've usually been playing recently the Max Lange version of the Vienna Gambit, the immediate f4. And this often creates some really, really interesting type lines. Best move for black is to accept this version of the Vienna Gambit. They don't. They decide to play conservatively with d6. And because I was tired, I wasn't really thinking, I immediately rushed out bishop to c4. And that's actually a mistake because after captures, I think black is quite a bit ahead. However, they play the other knight, and at this point I realized I made a mistake, that I should have played knight to f3 first. And the reason for that is, in this position, the only logical move for white is d3. What's wrong with that? Well, nothing's wrong, except that this now transposes to the bishop's opening, the Berlin-Vienna hybrid. I've played lots of these games before. When against the Max Lange defense, if you play bishop to c4 immediately, which is what I used to do, you end up in this Berlin-Vienna hybrid quite a bit. And this position is perfectly fine for white. It's just that I don't really like playing it. You often end up in quite closed positional games, and I don't really play the Vienna for that. So a bit of an inaccuracy, a bit of a mistake, not technically inaccuracy, I suppose. It's just that I didn't want to go down this line. So what did I do here? So black here decides to, again, play very conservatively, and I sort of did note that black tended to play these slow moves, possibly not entirely sure how to play the line. Now here, the best move, it's quite obvious, right? It's knight to f3, but I decided not to do that. I decided to spice things up. I wanted to move back into Vienna Gambit type lines, and so f captures e5. So to take that pawn, that is an inaccuracy. You can see knight here is better, but fundamentally, this is still perfectly okay. So I think it's a change from about, let's have a look. Yeah, it's about plus 0.3, so white having a nice little opening advantage, to minus 0.1. It's practically still equal. However, now we're moving a little bit away from the Berlin-Vienna hybrid type lines to something that looks much more like a Vienna Gambit line. Now, obviously they'll capture, knight now out, and notice there is the semi-open f-file, and after castling, the rook will now control that f-file, and that's really, really good. That's what I really like. They move a bishop, pinning the knight. Yep, fair enough, but it's not particularly scary because now short castles and it's now defended. And here, let's see. Yep, they play that with check. Have to move my king out of the way. They push another flank pawn. I now move my knight forward, threatening that knight, and they now short castles kingside as well. We're both now in the middle game. It's slight advantage white, practically equal. However, even though the evaluation is almost equal, I think white is in a better position. So let's take stock of this position. In this position, very, very Vienna Gambit-y sort of position, white has a very simple strategy. Attack black's king. To marshal pieces, attack black's king. And the thing is that white has quite a few tactical resources available. Firstly, the rook on f1 controls the semi-open f-file. And as we'll see in this game, it's really powerful. Like it just becomes so useful as the game progresses. Now, this knight potentially can dislodge that knight. Either they capture or forces it to move, or I capture directly, and that removes that knight from the defense of the king. And you'll notice that the black king doesn't have a lot of defenses. This bishop on c4 potentially pins the f pawn on f7 to the king. And if that is pinned, especially after they've played h6, it means that this square, the g6 square, isn't defended. So potentially, the knight can jump into that square. Again, that might be a little bit hidden for black. My dark square bishop, lurking on c1 at any point, can just whack that pawn, which basically forces a big hole to occur on black's king's defenses. So this is potentially a really, really, really useful sacrifice. Now, this knight, of course, always ready to jump in, and this queen potentially able to go into the attack as well. So white's pieces are really well set up. And now I even have this diagonal of pawns pointing towards the king's side, and that often gives, pretty good defense. It stops the attack on my own king. Let's see what we do. All right, so first step, I decide to move my queen to e1. Again, so that there's access to the g3 square, but also potentially the h4 square. Stockfish thinks whacking right away is okay. I wasn't so sure about that because, queen will take back. I wasn't sure I really wanted to do that right away. Black now has a wrong strategic outlook, I think. So you will see that in the subsequent moves, black looks to getting a queenside expansion, attacking down the queenside. Strategically, it's a mistake because there's nothing here. There is no target. My king is on the other side. By moving an attack down the queenside, potentially just allows me to gain a little bit of tempo. I might sort of move that bishop into the attack, and there's nothing here. They come all the way here, the pawns eventually clash, and that's it. It ends. So this is a mistake. And the interesting thing here is obviously it's attacking the bishop, thinking, do I pull it back? They do manage to distract me a little bit. So here I decide, look, let's take, that moves the queen here, and then I thought I'll bring my bishop with a pin along that diagonal. So that's what I was thinking. And that's what I did, captures. But you can see Stockfish says, can completely ignore that, can now immediately whack that bishop. That's the best move. And if they take, you capture down this chain as well, completely devastating to black's position. However, it was late. I was tired. I did actually consider taking that immediately, but I was worried that I was just going to end up blundering that bishop, losing my bishop pair for no good advantage. So I decided to play more conservatively. So firstly, give a check, and here black obviously captures, and now bishop to d5, pinning the knight to the rook. At least I thought that was a pin, but they were able to push forward. That comes with a fork. I thought for a while, what to do? Do I take? But that rook's not really doing anything, so I decided to pull my bishop all the way back, defending here, bottom of the chain, probably important to defend. And now this knight is kind of in the middle of nowhere. Like, can't go back here. It could go back there, I suppose. Here, can't go, can't go, can't go, can't go. That knight is pretty much trapped in the middle of nowhere, and that forces the knight to retreat. So I thought that was potentially quite good for me. So they push another pawn, the a pawn to a5. You can see, again, it's a mistake because there is no attack here. Push the knight has to jump back, and I bring my bishop all the way back. But you can see Stockfish says, I didn't really need to do anything at all. Recommends immediately moving the knight. Now that puts the knight into a nice attacking position, and also discovered attack on the queen. But I was still sort of distracted with these queenside movements. Here, they attack once more, and now on move 17, I realize I can just ignore all of this. It just doesn't matter. Like if I take, you know, what's the point? I think taking is actually completely fine. So here I decided I'm just going to completely now ignore the queen side. My attack is definitely on the king side. Whatever they do here, it's a distraction. It took me a few moves to really realize that. And so I found knight to h4. And here, discovered attack on the queen. They have to move the queen. This moves my knight into a nice position as well. Remember, it can potentially come here. Very, very powerful. That is pinned. Now they move the queen to the wrong place. They put queen all the way here, which now, of course, abandons the defense of their knight. So that blunders their knight, captures. Very, very good. They move their rook to a6, attack on the bishop, move the bishop back. Now, that does sort of defend the seventh rank, which is a little bit annoying. Potentially, I want to do something there. But now, black, I think, not recognizing exactly what my attack looks like, I think gets a little bit freaked out. I think they get a little bit, concerned with the power of my attack. So they wanted to trade away that bishop. They were a bit worried about my bishop. This is the wrong move. The bishop is often actually not that central to the attack. And so here, trading is fine. So captures, they should probably capture this way, but they captured with that pawn. And now the rooks look at each other with a fully open f-file. Potentially it's quite strong because if they capture, I'm forced to take back this way, and then they take my knight. So obviously I have to avoid that. However, notice that with this pawn chain and these doubled e-pawns, this is like a barrier across the chessboard. And pretty much with black, most of their pieces are on the wrong side of the barrier. Obviously, there's a rook here, which is on the right side, and the queen does have ready access here. However, this pretty much completely stops this rook and this bishop from entering the game. Here, I need to do something about that knight, so I move it back. Stockfish says that that is the most accurate move. And I think one of the insights I actually got from reviewing this game is that you really do need to look at the Stockfish recommended moves in terms of the top most accurate moves, actually with a grain of salt. I have no doubt that this is the most accurate move in terms of how Stockfish calculates accuracy. But this was the second best move. The difference in evaluation is hardly different. It's about the same. This makes sense. These sort of queenside attacks, yeah, sure, they're a little bit better for white, but at the end of the day, white is winning regardless. The fact that this is notionally less accurate doesn't make any difference because this is the more direct attack. It is more coherent with the strategy of the attack to play that move, because none of this really makes any difference. Now here, obviously, that blocks that f-file temporarily so that they can't force a check. Also attacking the e5 square. Now black defends with the bishop, but that's fine because now I play bishop captures h6 finally. Again, this was not considered one of the most accurate moves in this position by Stockfish. It's not even in the top 3. Don't think it's in top 4. And again, when you're examining these lines with the engine, have to take it with a grain of salt. So there's a bunch of slow, conservative moves which Stockfish considers the most accurate. However, this move is still completely winning. At higher depth, the most accurate move, which I think was the A pawn captures B pawn on B4, is plus 5.4. This move is plus 4.7. Still absolutely completely winning. Categorically, it's completely winning. However, this move is, keeps the tension, I suppose, while bishop captures h6 is a devastating move for black. Psychologically devastating. It makes them feel like they're losing. And so I would argue from a human perspective, this is the best move. I think it was a really good move. And the important thing is in the analysis, You need to really think through what is the engine trying to say, how do I interpret it, because you don't want to take the interpretation that this was a wrong move and like a mistake. This is a very good move. This might be notionally more accurate, but this is still a very good move. Black, of course, captures, and now queen to g3, the whole reason we moved the queen to e1. Now with check, and the king is completely exposed with this barrier stopping, stopping these pieces from providing defense. So very, very good. King moves here. It's probably more accurate for them to go here because now I infiltrate with the queen. And you can once again see Stockfish thinks these other moves are more accurate. Again, needing to take Stockfish's recommendations with a grain of salt in analysis. So this sort of shenanigans, it doesn't make any real sense. Nothing here really matters. Now, this move does make a bit of sense because basically captures, queen captures with check, and basically Stockfish is saying in this position, just trade down into a winning endgame. I think that's what it's about. However, queen to g6, it's still completely winning. Low depth Stockfish doesn't recognize quite how good it is actually. It's still over +3, I think, yeah, almost +4. And basically infiltrating here, making the black king feel very, very uncomfortable. They find the best move. However, queen to h5. Now that is pinned, allowing for the infiltration with the knight as well. And black struggles to find the most accurate moves in this position, as if you will find that move in this position. Knight, excellent move with check. I'm really proud of these couple of moves because I found them quite quickly. King now blunders, moves to the wrong square. And now I find a brilliant move. Can you see it? Knight to knight captures e6, check, royal fork, and basically black either loses their queen or they must capture with the rook. Of course, they're going to capture with the rook, but now I infiltrate with queen, queen to f7, which is a fork of the king and rook, defended by my rook. Remember, the open f-file, so powerful. King basically forced into the corner. I now capture the rook. That was pretty much their last, defender on the king's side in that position. They're in some real trouble now. That is a mistake. Trying to attack, that does nothing. And in fact, here I've got a mate in 5. Now, as I said, I was quite tired here, and I thought, even in the game, I probably have a checkmate. I can't see it. I was finding it difficult to calculate, and I think this is a weakness of mine. I need to understand some of these endgame patterns, but this is what you would do. Initially, I thought, either here or here would make sense. Do I give a check first? Do I move my rook first, either to potentially f7 or maybe f6, maybe f6? And I just couldn't decide, and eventually I actually played, I think, rook f6, bring another attacker. I thought that was probably fine. However, here, queen to captures the h6 pawn first is best. I actually did think about that, but I thought, doesn't the king just shuffle? That is fine, because what we actually want is for the queen to shuffle, but for our queen to be on the king's side and the king to be in the right position. So it looks something like this. So queen captures, check, forced here. Check again, forced back here. And now, because the queen is already in this position with the king there, we now can put the rook forward, forced to move the queen here, but now check, must block with queen, and that is mate. So that's the pattern. Probably worth knowing that that sort of queen and rook mating attack pattern for checkmate. I'll definitely keep that in mind. But in the actual game, where are we? I ended up playing, yeah, rook to f6. And this is actually still fine, just a little bit less accurate. Yeah, whatever, they can take that. Here with check, and I actually have a mate here as well, but I don't quite find it. Basically here, I give a check. King is here, and I think give a check back here. And yeah, so if I give a check back here, king potentially goes to 1. Oh, no, it has to come here, and then that would be mate as well. However, in this position, I just found it a little bit difficult to think through. And so I thought, look, my entire thinking here was, that skewers the king against the queen. Let's just take the queen. Easy, completely winning, can't lose in that position. And so rook captures queen, and done. Rook and bishop cannot win against queen and rook, especially given that, these are completely passed pawns as well. And so here, my goal was, let's just not stuff up. I'm really tired. I'm just going to give checks. Don't do anything dumb. Obviously, there's always a risk of back rank mate. So let's just keep the rook there. As long as that pawn is here, they probably can't attack the rook with my with their bishop either. Nice and easy. Let's push some of these pawns towards promotion. Done. That is the basic tactical approach. Low risk, not the most accurate, not the most pretty, but you're not going to make a mistake. You're not going to be losing. That's what I do. So first, take, that's fine. Check, take, take another pawn. So there we go. 1, 2, 3, pass pawns. Very easy. Yep, okay. Let's try to move to a place where they can't do anything. Let's start to push. Yeah, I actually wanted to push out 2 squares, but mouse clip that. There we are, attacking. Whatever, whatever, push. And here I actually had a fork. I saw that afterwards, but doesn't matter. What are they going to do? There's 2 pawns. They can't stop both. That's fine. Come on. Let's trade. That's fine. Yep. Let's trade. That's fine. Take, and here, that is now a queen. Easy. They come all the way back. And what's the easiest way here? I could try to shuffle to find a mate. Pretty easy, but I can just deflect that bishop and make another queen. So deflect the bishop. There we go. They can't stop another queen. And in this position, my Egyptian friend, I think, really good sport playing on, despite in a losing position. But now, 2 queens on the board. Obviously, checkmate is very easy now from this position. They opt to resign. Good game. GG. The first big takeaway from this game is that I need to work on some of my endgame patterns. I could have won much earlier in the game. And the second takeaway is something I mentioned during the video, which is that you need to take the stockfish evaluation, the engine evaluations, with a grain of salt in analysis. Not uncommonly, there will be less accurate moves that are nonetheless still completely winning, and these less accurate moves according to engine are much more coherent from a strategic perspective, psychologically. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.